My boyfriend's mom sat at our dinner date uninvited and mocked my nose job in front of everyone. When I begged her to accept me, she rolled her eyes and said, "You'll never be prettier than me." I didn't say a word. That was 1 year ago. Today, she nearly tripped when she saw me walk past her. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You'll never be prettier than me, no matter how many surgeries you get." Let me back up. You ever look at someone and feel like they're the whole universe? That was Jordan. He was my high school sweetheart, senior year captain of the swim team, the kind of guy who smelled like expensive shampoo and disappointment. We dated all of junior and senior year. But the real problem wasn't him. It was his mom. She was the type to flip her hair at waitresses, post wine o'clock memes, and call every girl her son dated a little phase. Oh, and she referred to me exclusively as the chunky girl with the lip gloss. So, yeah, good times. Still, I stuck it out, because Jordan made me feel like I mattered, until I caught him cheating on me with a girl from his econ class who wore butterfly clips and said YOLO unironically. I was devastated, but I broke up with him because I knew I deserved better. Then, 6 years later, he reached out. I had just gotten out of surgery for a nose job, something I wanted since I was 15 and people called me Toucan Sam. I posted a recovery selfie. He messaged, "You look beautiful, like always." I should have blocked him. I should have thrown my phone across the room. Instead, I replied. We got coffee, then dinner, then one night turned into 3. He said his mom had calmed down since high school. Lies. She showed up at our 4th date. I'm not kidding. Walked into the restaurant and sat down. Didn't even ask. She looked at me, smiled like Botox made it hard to move her face, and said, "Oh wow, I didn't even recognize you with that new nose. Smart of you to get it done. Shows commitment." I choked on my water. Jordan laughed. She's just joking. No, she was not. Fast forward 3 weeks and Jordan invites me to a family brunch. I knew it was a bad idea, but I thought maybe if I proved I'd changed, she'd like me more. Spoiler, she didn't. She gave a toast and said, "To all the girls who grow into beautiful women, and all the others who have to pay for it." I swear the room went silent. I looked at Jordan. He shrugged. That should have been my cue. But I had the audacity, the delusion, to think I could outlove the hate. I stayed. I met his mom for coffee one-on-one to clear the air. I told her I loved Jordan, that I wanted to be part of the family. That's when she stunned me. "You'll never be prettier than me," she said, sipping her decaf. "No matter how many surgeries you get." And then she added, "But I'll give you points for effort." Something in me snapped. I left that cafe, blocked Jordan's number, deleted our photos, and hit the gym so hard I nearly dislocated my trauma. A week after cutting contact, I was organizing old files when I found it. An email from Jordan's mom, dated 2 months ago. Subject line, "That girl and her nose job." She'd sent it to Jordan and Jordan had forwarded it to me by mistake. I'd forgotten all about it. Until now. It was short, mean, and unforgettable. "She'll never be prettier than me. Not with that skin tone, not with that man-made nose. She's just a patchwork project you're babysitting." I sat there, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Because the family friend who introduced us, the one Jordan's mom had always fawned over, she was now the executive director of a mentorship program for young women in business. So I forwarded the email to her. Just the message. No commentary. A few hours later, she replied, "Thank you for this. I've been wondering why you stopped coming around. I see now. You're always welcome here." They, on the other hand, won't be. That was all I needed. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders after Melissa's response. It was validating to have someone else see Karen's true colors. I closed my laptop and went to bed feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The moonlight filtered through my blinds, casting soft shadows across my bedroom as I drifted off to sleep, without the knot of anxiety that had become my constant companion. The next few months were honestly pretty great. I got promoted at work, senior marketing analyst with my own tiny office instead of a cubicle, and started dating casually. Nothing serious, just getting back out there. I even adopted a cat from the shelter. His name is Muffin, and he's got one eye and an attitude problem, but he's perfect. He follows me around the apartment like a tiny, judgmental shadow, demanding treats and attention on his schedule, not mine. My therapist said getting him was a sign I was ready to care for something beyond myself again. Whatever, I just wanted a cat. Then it happened. About 6 months after the whole Karen email fiasco, I was sorting through my mail after work. Bills, junk, more junk, and then a cream-colored envelope with fancy calligraphy. The paper was thick and expensive feeling between my fingers. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. It was a wedding invitation. Not just any wedding invitation, Jordan's wedding invitation. To someone named Madison, with a little note scribbled at the bottom in his familiar handwriting. "Hope you can make it. J." I stood in my kitchen, Muffin weaving between my legs, completely stunned. The granite countertop felt cool under my palms as I leaned against it for support. Who does this? Who invites their ex to their wedding, especially after everything that happened? I checked the envelope again. Yep, addressed directly to me, not a mistake. I tossed it on the counter and poured myself a very large glass of wine, the rich burgundy liquid sloshing dangerously close to the rim. Then I called my best friend Denise. "He did what?" She practically screamed when I told her. I had to hold the phone away from my ear, her voice so loud that Muffin startled and darted under the couch. I explained the whole thing while pacing around my apartment, the hardwood floors creaking slightly under my feet. Denise suggested several creative ways to respond, most involving glitter bombs or anonymous packages of gummy peens. Tempting, but not really my style. You know what's weird? I said, now on my second glass of wine, curled up on my sofa with a throw blanket. I'm not even upset that he's getting married. I'm upset that he had the audacity to invite me like nothing happened. After hanging up with Denise, I stared at the invitation again. The wedding was in 3 months at some fancy vineyard outside the city, the kind that appears in wedding magazines with fairy lights and rustic chic decor. I noticed the RSVP card had a spot to select meal preferences, chicken, fish, or vegetarian. So mundane for such a bizarre situation. I was about to toss the whole thing in the trash when a notification popped up on my phone. A Facebook memory from 7 years ago. A photo of Jordan and me at senior prom. We looked so young, so happy, with matching wide smiles and bright eyes full of possibility. I was wearing this blue dress I'd saved up for months to buy, working extra shifts at the mall, and he had a matching tie. Karen had made a comment about the dress being a little tight in certain areas when she took our photos, but I didn't care. I felt beautiful that night. That's when I had the idea. A terrible, wonderful idea that made me sit up straight, heart suddenly racing. I picked up the RSVP card and checked "Will attend" with a flourish. Selected the fish option because why not go all out? Then I dropped it in the mail the next morning before I could change my mind, the metal mailbox clanging shut with a sense of finality. 2 weeks later, I got a text from an unknown number. So happy you're coming to the wedding. Can't wait to meet you. Madison. Jordan had given his fiancée my number. Great. I sent back a polite, looking forward to it, and immediately regretted my entire plan. What was I thinking? I couldn't actually go to this wedding. It would be awkward and weird and Karen would be there and... I was going. I was absolutely going. I squared my shoulders and took a deep breath, determination settling over me like armor. I just needed a plan, and a killer outfit, and possibly a date, though bringing someone seemed like dragging an innocent bystander into my drama. I started with the outfit. I booked an appointment at the fanciest boutique in the city, the kind with champagne while you shop and salespeople who actually know what they're talking about. The boutique smelled of expensive perfume and new fabric, soft music playing as I tried on dress after dress. I tried on about 20 dresses before finding the one. A deep emerald green that made my eyes pop and fit like it was made for me. The silk material draped perfectly, accentuating curves I didn't even know I had. It wasn't cheap, but this was psychological warfare. No expense spared. Next, I made appointments for hair, makeup, and nails for the morning of the wedding. I even scheduled a spray tan the day before, remembering Karen's comment about my skin tone. I was going to look effing radiant, glowing, unforgettable. The final piece of my plan came together about a month before the wedding. I was cleaning out my desk drawer when I found an old flash drive, dusty and forgotten in the back corner. Curious, I plugged it in and found it contained backups of text conversations from my old phone, including texts from Jordan after our breakup 6 years ago. I scrolled through them, cringing at his attempts to get me back after I caught him cheating. There were dozens of messages spanning several months, begging, apologizing, saying he'd made the biggest mistake of his life, claiming the other girl meant nothing. Classic cheater stuff. But then I found it. A long paragraph where he described in detail what he'd do differently if I gave him another chance. How he'd stand up to his mom. How he'd never look at another girl. How I was the one that got away, and he'd never forgive himself for losing me. The timestamp showed he'd sent it at 2:14 a.m., probably after a night of drinking. I saved that specific message to a new document, formatted it nicely, and printed it out. Then I put it in an envelope and tucked it away in my desk. Insurance policy. As the wedding date approached, I started having second thoughts. Was I being petty? Immature? Should I just not go and move on with my life like a normal, well-adjusted adult? The rational part of my brain kept suggesting I cancel, make up an excuse about a work emergency or sudden illness. Probably. But then I remembered Karen's email. She'll never be prettier than me. The way Jordan never defended me. The brunch toast where Karen accidentally spilled mimosa on my new white blouse. The years of subtle put-downs and not-so-subtle insults. The memory of each slight stoked the fire of my resolve. No, I was going. This wasn't about revenge. It was about closure. At least that's what I told myself as I practiced my most dazzling smile in the mirror. The week before the wedding, I got another text from Madison. Excited to meet you Saturday. Jordan's told me so much about you. I bet he has, I thought, fingers hovering over my phone screen. I wondered what version of me she knew. The high school girlfriend? The recent fling? The girl with the nose job? I almost felt bad for her. Almost. I replied with a simple, looking forward to it too, and added a smiley face for good measure. The day of the wedding arrived, bright and clear, as if the universe approved of my mission. I woke up early, fed Muffin his favorite wet food as a special treat, and headed to my first appointment. 4 hours later, I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. My hair was styled in loose waves that framed my face perfectly. My makeup was flawless but natural looking with just enough drama around the eyes, and the dress. The dress was spectacular. I looked good. Really good. The kind of good that makes heads turn and conversations pause. I grabbed my clutch, which contained only the essentials. Phone, lipstick, ID, cash, and the envelope with Jordan's printed message. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and called an Uber. The vineyard was gorgeous, I had to admit. Rolling hills covered in grapevines stretched into the distance, their leaves rustling gently in the breeze. A rustic chic barn decorated with fairy lights and flowers stood proudly against the backdrop of mountains. White chairs set up facing an arbor with mountain views behind it completed the picture-perfect setting. Very Pinterest. Very not Karen. I wondered how much input she'd had in the planning and how many arguments had ensued. I arrived about 20 minutes before the ceremony was set to begin. Guests were mingling, finding their seats, admiring the view. Women in pastel dresses and men in suits created a kaleidoscope of color against the green landscape. I spotted Jordan's dad near the bar, talking to some older men I didn't recognize. He looked older, more gray at his temples, but still had that same forced smile I remembered. No sign of Karen yet, thankfully. I chose a seat near the back on the bride's side. Less chance of being noticed before the ceremony. A few people glanced my way, probably wondering who the hot stranger was. I smiled politely but didn't engage. I was on a mission. Then I saw him. Jordan, standing at the front with the officiant and his groomsmen. He looked good in his tux, I had to admit. Older, more filled out than his swimmer's build in high school. His hair was shorter now, styled differently. He was laughing at something one of his friends said. That same laugh that used to make my heart skip a hit. For a brief moment, I felt a pang of something. Not regret exactly. Maybe nostalgia for the girl I used to be. The one who thought this man was her whole world. The one who didn't know any better. The music started, signaling guests to take their seats. I watched as the bridesmaids walked down the aisle one by one, all wearing dusty rose dresses that actually looked pretty nice. Then came the flower girl, adorably tossing petals everywhere except the actual aisle, causing a ripple of affectionate laughter through the crowd. And then Madison appeared. I had to give it to her. She was stunning. Blonde hair cascading in soft curls, bright smile that reached her eyes, classic white dress with lace details that caught the sunlight. She looked genuinely happy as she walked toward Jordan, who had the biggest smile I'd ever seen on his face. For a second, I almost felt guilty about my plan. During the ceremony, I found myself looking for Karen. I spotted her in the front row, wearing a pale blue dress that was definitely trying to steal focus from the bride. Her hair was styled in an elaborate updo, and even from a distance I could see the glint of expensive jewelry at her throat and wrists. Some things never change. The ceremony was short and sweet. They wrote their own vows, which were actually pretty touching. Jordan promised to always put her first, and be the man she deserves. Rich, coming from him, but whatever. They kissed, everyone applauded, and then it was time for the reception. This was where my plan would unfold. I made my way to the cocktail hour, grabbing a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. The bubbles tickled my nose as I took a sip, liquid courage for what was to come. I stayed on the periphery, watching, waiting for the right moment. I saw Karen holding court with some women her age, gesturing dramatically about something, her hands fluttering like birds. I saw Jordan's dad looking slightly uncomfortable as he stood next to his wife, tugging at his collar occasionally. I saw Jordan and Madison making their rounds, thanking guests for coming, their hands intertwined. They were getting closer to my corner. I took a deep breath and another sip of champagne. This was it. I straightened my posture and put on my most dazzling smile. "Oh my God," I heard Madison say as she spotted me. "You must be Alexis. I'm so glad you could come." She was genuinely friendly, her eyes warm and welcoming, which made what I was about to do even harder. But I'd come too far to back out now. "Congratulations," I said, smiling at her. "You look beautiful." Jordan was frozen beside her, his eyes wide. He clearly hadn't expected me to actually show up. "Alexis," he finally said. You came." "I did," I replied. "Wouldn't miss it." Madison beamed, oblivious to the tension crackling between us like electricity. "Jordan's told me all about you two dating in high school. It's so cool that you guys stayed friends." "Friends? Right." I nodded, maintaining my smile. "Madison, do you mind if I borrow your husband for just a quick second? High school reunion thing won't take long." She was so nice about it. "Of course. I need to check on my grandma anyway. She's probably telling inappropriate stories again." She kissed Jordan's cheek and walked away, her dress swishing elegantly around her ankles. As soon as she was out of earshot, Jordan's fake smile dropped. "What are you doing here?" he hissed, his voice low but intense. "You invited me," I said innocently. "Remember? Cute little note on the invitation and everything. That was... I didn't think you'd actually come. Clearly." I took another sip of champagne, savoring the moment. "Your wife seems lovely. Does she know about your mom's email? Or how you never stood up for me? Or how you begged me to take you back after cheating on me in high school?" His face went pale, the color draining away like water down a drain. "Alexis, it's my wedding day. Can we not do this now?" "Don't worry," I said. "I'm not here to make a scene. I just wanted to give you a wedding gift." I reached into my clutch and pulled out the envelope. "Here, a little reminder of who you really are." He took it hesitantly, his fingers trembling slightly. "What is this?" "Just some of your greatest hits. Specifically that lovely message you sent me after I caught you cheating. You know, the one where you called me the love of your life and said you'd never forgive yourself for losing me? I thought Madison might find it interesting." Jordan's hands were actually shaking. "You wouldn't." "I already did," I said calmly. "That's a copy. The original is with Madison's maid of honor. I gave it to her during cocktail hour. Told her it was a surprise for the bride to open during the honeymoon. She was very excited to help. This was a complete lie. I hadn't given anything to the maid of honor. But watching the color drain from Jordan's face was worth the bluff. "You're bluffing," he said, but he didn't sound convinced. His eyes darted around, probably looking for the maid of honor. I shrugged. "Maybe. Maybe not. Guess you'll find out when Madison opens her surprise gift." Just then, I spotted Karen heading our way, that Botox smile firmly in place, her eyes narrowing as she Congratulations again on your wedding. You two deserve each other. I turned to walk away but couldn't resist one parting shot. I looked back over my shoulder and said, by the way, Jordan, your mom was wrong. I am prettier than her now. I walked straight past Karen, giving her my sweetest smile as I went. The look of confusion on her face was priceless. She clearly didn't recognize me at first, and when she did, her eyes narrowed to slits. Excuse me, she said, trying to stop me, her manicured hand reaching for my arm. Sorry, can't chat. I've got a real nose to powder, I replied, continuing past her without breaking stride. I could feel her glare burning into my back as I walked away. I walked out of that reception with my head high, not bothering to stay for dinner or dancing or cake. I'd done what I came to do. I'd faced my past, looked it straight in the eye, and walked away on my terms. In the Uber home, I opened the envelope I'd shown Jordan. Inside wasn't his message at all, just a blank piece of paper. I hadn't needed his actual words. The fear in his eyes was enough. When I got home, I kicked off my heels, changed into pajamas, and opened a bottle of wine. Muffin jumped into my lap, purring loudly as I scratched behind his one good ear. Mission accomplished, buddy, I told him. Now we can both move on. I was about to turn on Netflix when my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Madison. I don't know what you said to Jordan, but he's been acting weird all night. Is everything okay? I stared at the message for a long time, considering my options. I could tell her everything. I could send her screenshots of Jordan's old messages. I could blow up her wedding night with the truth about the man she just married. But what would that accomplish? More pain? More drama? Madison seemed nice. She didn't deserve to have her wedding ruined because she married a jerk with a nightmare mother. I typed back, everything's fine. Just congratulated him on finding someone special. You looked beautiful today. She sent back a heart emoji. I put down my phone and took a long sip of wine, the rich flavor washing away the last of my tension. I thought that would be the end of it. I really did. I was ready to put the whole Jordan chapter behind me for good this time. But 2 days later, while I was at work, my phone lit up with a notification. A Facebook message from Madison. My stomach dropped as I opened it. I found something interesting in Jordan's inbox while using his laptop. A forwarded email from his mom about you. I confronted him and he confessed everything. I don't know you, but no one deserves to be treated that way. I'm staying with my sister for now. Thank you for coming to the wedding. It opened my eyes. I sat at my desk, stunned. I hadn't intended this outcome at all. I felt a mix of emotions. Guilt for potentially ruining their marriage. Satisfaction that Jordan's true nature was exposed. Concern for Madison, who was clearly hurting. I replied carefully, I'm sorry you're going through this. For what it's worth, I didn't come to the wedding to cause problems between you two. I just needed closure. She responded almost immediately. I know, and I needed the truth. Can I buy you a coffee sometime? I have questions only you can answer. I hesitated before typing. Sure, just let me know when. As I put my phone down, I realized this story wasn't over yet. Maybe it never would be completely over. But for the first time, I felt like I had control over my part in it. That evening, I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw it. A post from Karen. A photo from the wedding with a long caption about welcoming Madison to the family. How perfect the day was. How happy everyone was. The comments were full of congratulations and heart emojis. I almost laughed out loud at the facade. The perfect family image she tried so hard to maintain was crumbling behind the scenes. And yet here she was, still pretending. I closed the app and looked around my apartment. My small, cozy space that was all mine. Muffin was curled up on the windowsill, watching birds. My bookshelf was overflowing with novels I loved. My fridge had a photo of me and Denise from our trip to Chicago last year. This was my life. Not perfect, but real. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. The next morning, I woke up to another text from Madison. Coffee tomorrow at 2? That place on Main Street? I replied, I'll be there. I had no idea what this meeting would bring, but I was ready for it. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing for certain. I was done letting Jordan and Karen have any power over me. I'd faced my past, and now I was free to focus on my future. And honestly, it looked pretty damn good from where I was standing. I got to the coffee shop 15 minutes early the next day. I wanted to scope out the place, maybe grab a good corner table where we could talk without being overheard. The place was busy but not packed, just enough ambient noise to make our conversation private. I ordered an oat milk latte and grabbed a table near the back, away from the windows. I wasn't sure what to expect from this meeting. What questions did Madison have? Was she looking for dirt on Jordan? Confirmation that he was a cheating jerk? Or maybe she wanted to yell at me for showing up at her wedding. I wouldn't blame her for that one. Madison walked in right at 2 o'clock. She looked different from the wedding, hair in a messy bun, minimal makeup, wearing jeans and a sweater. She spotted me and gave a small wave before getting in line to order. I watched her fidget with her purse strap while waiting. She seemed nervous. A few minutes later, she sat down across from me with some fancy tea drink. Up close, I could see her eyes were a little puffy. She'd been crying. Thanks for meeting me, she said, wrapping her hands around her mug. No problem, I replied, suddenly feeling awkward. What do you say to the woman who just married your ex and is now possibly divorcing him because of you? How are you holding up? She gave a small laugh that sounded more like a sigh. Well, I'm staying at my sister's place instead of going on my honeymoon to Bali, so not great. I winced. I'm sorry. That really wasn't my intention when I came to the wedding. Why did you come? She asked, looking directly at me. Jordan said you just showed up to mess with him, but that didn't seem right. You don't seem like that kind of person. I took a sip of my latte, buying time to organize my thoughts. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. When I got the invitation, I was shocked. Who invites their ex to their wedding? Especially after everything that happened between us. I guess I wanted closure. Or maybe I wanted to prove something to myself. Madison nodded slowly. He told me you were just a high school girlfriend. That you reconnected briefly last year but decided you were better as friends. I nearly choked on my coffee. Friends? We were never friends. He cheated on me in high school. Then 6 years later slid into my DMs after I got a nose job. We dated for about a month before I found out his mom was still the same nightmare she always was. He never stood up for me. Not once. I told her everything. The brunch toast, the coffee meeting with Karen, the forwarded email. Madison listened without interrupting, occasionally taking sips of her tea. The worst part, I said, is that he saw how his mom treated me and did nothing. He'd just shrug it off like it was normal. That's exactly what he does with me, Madison said quietly. His mom made comments about my dress being a bit much for a first marriage, and suggested I was trying too hard with the whole wedding. Jordan just laughed it off. We looked at each other with sudden understanding. She'd been dealing with the same crap I had. How long were you two together? I asked. Just under a year. We met at his company's holiday party. I work for a client of theirs. It all happened really fast. He proposed after 4 months. 4 months? That seemed way too quick, but I kept that thought to myself. His mom took over most of the wedding planning, Madison continued. I wanted something small, but she insisted on the big vineyard wedding with 200 guests. I gave in because Jordan said it would make her happy, and I thought, she trailed off. You thought if you made her happy, she'd accept you. I finished for her. Madison nodded, her eyes getting watery. Stupid, right? Not stupid at all. I did the exact same thing. We sat in silence for a moment, both lost in our thoughts. The coffee shop bustled around us, people typing on laptops, friends laughing at shared jokes, baristas calling out orders. So what happens now? I asked finally. Madison sighed. I don't know. Jordan's been calling and texting nonstop, saying his mom didn't mean anything by those emails, that I'm overreacting. He even suggested I was snooping through his computer looking for problems. Classic deflection, I said. Make it your fault somehow. Yeah, my sister thinks I should annul the marriage. Says 1 week of marriage isn't worth a lifetime of dealing with Karen. I couldn't help but laugh at that. Your sister sounds smart. Madison smiled a little. She is. She never liked Jordan much. Said he was too polished, like a Ken doll. That was actually a pretty accurate description. Jordan had always been a bit too perfect on the surface. The hair, the smile, the charm. It was what was underneath that was the problem. Can I ask you something personal? Madison said, leaning forward slightly. Sure. Do you still have feelings for him? Is that why you came to the wedding? I thought about it for a moment. Did I? Had some part of me been hoping to disrupt things because I was jealous? No, I said finally, realizing it was true. I don't. I think I wanted to prove to myself that I was over him, that I could face him and Karen without falling apart. And maybe I wanted him to see what he missed out on. I gestured to myself with a small laugh. Madison smiled. Well, you definitely accomplished that. You looked amazing at the wedding. I actually remember thinking, who is that? When I saw you. You kind of stole the show. Sorry about that, I said, genuinely feeling bad. It was your day. She waved it off. Please. After finding those emails, I'm glad someone enjoyed that day because I sure didn't. We both laughed, and somehow that broke the tension. We spent the next hour talking about everything. Our jobs, our families, our friends. Madison was actually really cool. In another universe, we probably could have been friends. As we were getting ready to leave, Madison looked at me seriously. Thank you for being honest with me. I needed to hear all this before. She didn't finish the sentence. Before you decide what to do about Jordan, I completed for her. She nodded. Yeah. I hesitated, then said, whatever you decide, just make sure it's what you want, not what will make Karen happy or Jordan comfortable. Trust me on that one. Madison gave me a quick hug before we parted ways outside the coffee shop. It was weird, hugging the woman who married my ex, but also kind of nice. Like we were part of some secret club of women who'd survived the Jordan and Karen experience. I walked home instead of taking an Uber, enjoying the crisp fall air. The leaves were starting to change, patches of red and gold appearing among the green. I felt lighter somehow, like I'd finally put down a heavy backpack I'd been carrying for years. When I got home, Muffin greeted me with his usual one-eyed stare that somehow managed to be both judgmental and loving. I scooped him up and carried him to the couch where we curled up together. No more Jordan drama, I told him, scratching under his chin. Promise. 2 weeks later, I was scrolling through Instagram during my lunch break when I saw it. A post from Madison. It was a photo of her on a beach, cocktail in hand, huge smile on her face. The caption read, sometimes the best honeymoon is the one you take by yourself. Hashtag fresh start, hashtag no regrets. I smiled and double tapped to like it. Good for her. Later that night, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Jordan. Why did you have to ruin everything? Madison filed for annulment today. Mom is devastated. Hope you're happy. I stared at the message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. There were so many things I could say. I could point out that I didn't ruin anything. He did that all by himself. I could tell him his mom's devastation wasn't my problem. I could remind him that he was the one who invited me to the wedding in the first place. Instead, I blocked the number without responding. He didn't deserve any more of my energy. The next day, I got a friend request from Madison on Instagram. I I accepted it, and immediately got a DM from her. Thanks for everything. Having drinks with my sister to celebrate my freedom. Want to join? I thought about it for a second, then replied, absolutely. Send me the details. That night, I met Madison and her sister Olivia at a rooftop bar downtown. Olivia was just as cool as Madison had described. Sharp, funny, with a take-no-prisoners attitude that I immediately liked. So, you're the ex who showed up at the wedding looking like a supermodel and scared the poop out of Jordan, Olivia said as soon as I sat down. I wish I'd known who you were that day. I would have bought you a drink. I laughed. Next time I crash a wedding, I'll find you first. We ordered a round of cocktails and toasted to dodging bullets. Madison seemed different already, more relaxed, laughing more easily. She told me the annulment was already in process since the marriage was so new, and they hadn't combined any assets yet. Jordan's mom tried to talk me out of it, she said, rolling her eyes. She actually said, every mother-in-law and daughter-in-law have their little spats. Like her calling me a social climbing gold digger in emails was just a little spat. Wait, she called you that too? I asked, surprised. Madison nodded. Oh yeah, apparently I was only with Jordan for his family's connections, according to her. She told Jordan I was just with him for his money, I said, which is hilarious because I made more than he did. We spent the rest of the night swapping Karen stories, each one more ridiculous than the last. By the end, we were laughing so hard I had tears in my eyes. As I was getting ready to leave, Madison gave me another hug. Thanks again for coming to the wedding, she said. Best gift anyone could have given me. Anytime, I replied with a smile. On my way home, I realized something. The Jordan chapter of my life was finally, truly closed. Not because I'd gotten revenge or made him regret losing me, but because I'd moved past needing any of that. I'd faced my past, helped someone else avoid making the same mistakes I had, and maybe even made a new friend in the process. A month later, I was at the gym when I spotted her, Karen. She was on a treadmill, power walking in full makeup and designer workout clothes. I froze for a second, wondering if I should leave before she saw me. But then I thought, why should I? I had nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to hide. I continued with my workout, deliberately choosing a rowing machine in her line of sight. It took about 10 minutes before she noticed me. I saw the exact moment recognition dawned on her face. Her eyes widened, her pace faltered, and she nearly tripped on the treadmill. I gave her a small wave and a smile, then went back to my rowing. 5 minutes later, she was gone. I didn't see her leave, but when I looked up again, her treadmill was empty. I smiled to myself and finished my workout. I'd come a long way from the girl who let Karen's comments destroy her self-esteem. The girl who thought Jordan's approval was worth enduring his mother's cruelty. The girl who got a nose job partly because she'd been called Toucan Sam for years. Don't get me wrong, I still loved my new nose. But now I love the rest of me too. That night, I posted a selfie from the gym. No filters, no makeup, just me in my sweaty workout clothes with a genuine smile. The caption was simple, strong feels good. Madison liked it immediately and commented, hell yes it does. I smiled and put my phone down, then picked up Muffin for our nightly cuddle session. He purred loudly, his one eye closing in contentment. We did good, buddy, I told him, stroking his fur. We did good.